In this section, we're now going to look at adding a payment gateway or a payment method to your WooCommerce site. So it's back over to the left. Underneath the WooCommerce menu, you'll see Settings. So click Settings and then look at the tabs across the top, and you've got General, Products, Tax. The one you're going to need at the moment is Checkout. So look at the links underneath. What we're looking at the moment are the default options that come with WooCommerce out of the box, so to speak. So BACS is bank transfer, which we have disabled in this version here. Check, customers can pay via check, cash on delivery, and the default credit card method is basic PayPal. So this is fairly self-explanatory. If you want to enable a payment method, select it in the blue menu and then simply enable it, and then scroll down and take a look at the titles and the text that WooCommerce has as a default. These will appear in the checkout section that the customer sees. So when they've selected their goods, it'll show them the cost, delivery and so on, and then the methods by which they can pay. So here you can enable them and disable them, and you can also set the default and the priority. So if you want to offer people the option to pay by PayPal, you can offer that as number one option, and then offer the alternative option of paying by BACS, for instance. So that's fairly straightforward. Now, if you're using a third-party payment system via your own bank, your own merchant services provider, what I've also included as part of the resources are the most popular premium plugins from WooThemes, who are the makers of WooCommerce. So if we look at the resources that I have on my desktop here, these are all the major plugins. So these are included as part of the course for educational purposes. So we've got To Checkout, Amazon, AuthorizeNet, CardStream, First Data UK, No Checks, Ogon, Paymill, and then there's several PayPal versions. So there's PayPal Advanced, PayPal for Digital Goods, PayPal Express, PayPal Pro, PIN payments. There's a purchase order option, again more for B2B, business-to-business websites, and finally SagePay. So these are the main payment gateway plugins that are available for WooCommerce. Now these aren't free, these are premium plugins, so these cost anywhere from $79 from memory up to $200 plus for some of them. Now I've included them free for educational purposes. The copyright with regards to plugins, all plugins for WooCommerce and for WordPress for that fact are written under the GPL, the General Public License, so they're in effect copyright free. So there's no restriction on you using these plugins. However, if you wish to have access to plugin updates in the future and support on the plugins, then it's best to hop along to the plugin vendor, which in this case would be WooThemes, and subscribe to the plugin that you need. But as I say, all these plugins are fully working, you're free to use them, so that's a decision you can take at a later date. So we're at the checkout stage now. We're making sure we've got the right payment system. So default gives us BACS, check, PayPal as the main card system, and then we've got the options of COD, cash on delivery. So let's look at adding a custom payment gateway. So let's say, for instance, we are using SagePay to process our credit cards. So we're going to need to upload a plugin. So the first thing I'm going to do, as with all plugins, is make sure it's compressed or zipped. All plugins have to be loaded up in a zip format. So I've just taken the Gateway plugin there, just right click the option to compress it or zip it, and there's the actual plugin that we're going to upload. So let's go back to the site and let's go to plugins, and then we're going to go to add new. And then we're going to go to the top and look for the little blue button that says upload plugin. Now if you recall back in the installation video for WooCommerce, the first video, and we looked at settings and PHP limits and so on, where it required it to be set to 64 meg. If your limits aren't set correctly, some of the larger plugins will time out and upload. So again, it's a small thing, but if you look in your WooCommerce settings and you are having a problem uploading larger files and plugins, that will most likely be the cause. So again, drop a ticket in or an email or a support request into your host and they can fix that setting in a couple of clicks. So let's add the SagePay plugin. So let's look for the file. There we go, payment gateways, and there's the SagePay plugin that we zipped up earlier. Now all of the plugins that are included as part of the resources, they all have their own installation guide with them. So it's I'm giving you an example of the SagePay plugin at the moment, but obviously with each one the instructions are slightly different. So, but if you do have an issue, ping a support request across to me via one of the forums or direct, and I'll make sure I answer that and share it with everybody else. So let's open that and install that plugin. So it's uploading, it's installed, so all we have to do now is activate it. And there, if we just check, so there's the plugin, WooCommerce SagePay form for Gateway. Quick description of what it does. There's the plugin site should you wish to update a subscription to it. So if we go back to WooCommerce now and we want to go to settings again, and then we want to go to checkout, and if you notice we now have the option for SagePay. So if we just click on that, so we want to enable SagePay, and this is the text here that will display within the cart. So these are the settings here. Now this is the point where you'll need to have to hand your SagePay documentation. So your merchant provider will or should have given you all of this information, so vendor name, passwords, so on and so forth, all go here. So this is where you need to set all this stuff together. Now most online merchant providers have pretty good tech support, so if you are getting an issue with cards not processing or tests not going correctly, in my experience most of them are extremely helpful, so they'll take you through and test this process for you. But in most cases things do work first time. If you've got the correct documentation, the passwords, the vendor names and so on, drop all that in here, and as you can see, if you've got any extra charges that you wish to add, you can drop all those in as well. So just double check all of your documentation, which cards your merchant's processing for you, as ever, a lot of merchants have the usual Visa, MasterCard and debit cards as standard, and then depending on which package you've subscribed to, you tend to find that things like American Express, Diners Card, JCB and Laser are quite often options, so you may not be processing those. So always double check those elements. And that's pretty much how to set up a payment gateway. So in summary, look at the options that you've enabled. So set the ones you do want and the ones you don't by simply going to them, click on the enable, and then if you have enabled them, go through and check the settings in each one. So SagePay, PayPal. So we'll be offering these two in this version. Cash on delivery we don't wish to offer, so that's disabled. Check. That's disabled. Backs. That's disabled. So with this version of the dummy e-commerce site that we're building, we've got PayPal and SagePay. So SagePay will take all major credit cards and process those for them. Again, we'll look at that more in depth when we look at the front end, but we're just getting the basics ticked and installed here. And then if we go to checkout options, again, we talked about coupons earlier. Leave it checked. Most people do at some point run a coupon promotion, so I would leave it checked. And then we scroll down and then we can look at the display order. So in this version, SagePay standard credit cards are going to be our priority. So I'm going to put that at the top. There you go. So it's just simple drag and drop. And then second option is PayPal. So that's enabled as the default. PayPal is enabled as the secondary option, and these three are disabled. So if we just save those changes. So in effect now we have two methods of taking payments from customers on the site, SagePay and PayPal. But if you are using a payment provider, a merchant, other than SagePay, we've most probably got them listed here for you. So as I said before, these are all the major ones. If you do have a merchant that I haven't got featured here, drop me an email. I may have the plugin for you and we can share that with everybody else as well. But it's often good to talk to the merchant or have a look at their support pages, because they quite often have their own custom plugins for WooCommerce. So it's always good to ask the question and just check through the documentation that they've supplied to you. But that is the basics of the setup of the checkout and taking credit cards. So what we'll do now is we'll just save that again, just double check as we finish, and then we can look at how that looks in the customer screen on the front end.